Friends, welcome back to the new video, and in this video we are going to talk about the biological classification. Okay, so before we start this topic, let's just have a quick recap of that why and what is the need, okay, for the classification. Why do we need it? Okay, so let's quickly go through the points that why we need it. First, because we want to organize the vast diversity of living organism. Okay, so we need biological classification for organization of biodiversity. Okay, organization of biodiversity. It is, students, it is very important to understand, okay, when we are talking about classification, that why we need it. So here we are going to discuss that in 4 main points. The first is we need to organize the biodiversity. Okay, so that's why we need a system for classification. Second, we need biological classification to make the study of organism easier and more systematic. Okay, so the classification is needed for systematic study, okay, of organism, okay, in an easier way. The third point, that why do we need the biological classification, is to understand the evolutionary relationship. Okay, so for evolutionary relationship understanding, we need a system, okay, for the biological classification. And fourth, because we have so many different organisms, then to avoid any confusion, we need to assign a scientific name to each organism. Okay, so for the nomenclature purpose also we need to have a proper biological classification. Okay, so now let's move on to our current topic today, that about the biological classification. The early attempt, students, the early attempts for the classification, they are made by the scientist Aristotle, okay, and Linnaeus. Okay, so these two scientists, they are the pioneers. Okay, so they made early attempts for the classification. Okay, so let's now first talk about the Aristotle. So the Aristotle, it based on the morphological characteristics, he classified the plants into trees, shrubs and herbs, and animal into those with red blood cell and those without. Okay, so his classification is based on morphological character. Okay, students, you can prepare notes along, okay, as I am preparing, you can prepare it with me. Okay, so based on morphological characteristic, what he divided? He divided plants and animals. Okay, and how he divided the plants? He classified the plants into tree, okay, shrubs and herbs. Okay, and based on the morphological characteristics, he divided animal into those two types, those with red blood cell and without RBCs, that is the red blood cell. Okay, so now this is all about the Aristotle. Now let's talk about the Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, so he is the first person, Carolus Linnaeus, okay, who developed two kingdom system. Okay, so I will write, he is the first person who developed two kingdom system. Okay, so what are the two kingdom system comprising of? Plantae and Animalia. Okay, and in my previous video also we have learned that the Linnaeus is a person who developed the binomial nomenclature also. Okay, so now let's talk about the two classification system. So classification is organizing a data. Okay, so from the name itself it is clear that in the two classification system there are two kingdoms. Okay, so the first is kingdom plantae and kingdom Animalia. Okay, Animalia. So the basis of this classification is presence or the absence of cell wall. Okay, so for this classification system the basis is presence or the absence of cell wall. Okay, so the Linnaeus he divided in the kingdom plantae. So he included all the organism with cell wall. Okay, so all organisms with cell walls. Okay, so what all are included? Plants, algae, fungi and bacteria. Okay, and in the kingdom Animalia he included all the organism lacking cell wall. Okay, student, okay, this is clear to you that the two classification system was developed by the Linnaeus. Okay, and he divided it into two kingdom, that is kingdom plantae and the kingdom Animalia, and this division is based on the presence or the absence of the cell wall. All the organisms that exhibit the cell wall they are grouped into kingdom plantae. Okay, and those organisms that lack the cell wall they are grouped into the kingdom Animalia. Okay, so however there are certain drawbacks. Okay, okay, this is not working, let me change the color. So there are some drawbacks of two kingdom classification. Let's just discuss them one by one. That the two classification system it did not distinguish between eukaryote and prokaryote. Okay, so the first drawback was no distinguish between eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Okay, this is the major drawback of the two kingdom method. The second drawback of two kingdom classification was that fungi it was placed with the plant despite it has difference in cell wall composition and mode of nutrition. Okay, so the fungi was actually misplaced. Okay, third, this classification does not take in account the mode of nutrition. Okay, so it lack or don't focus on mode of nutrition, which is very important. Okay, for the classification system. And the last drawback of the two kingdoms system is that there are certain organisms, for example, like Euglena. Okay, it has characteristics of both plants and animal. Okay, so it is not easy to place. Okay, so Euglena having both characteristics, they could not be placed easily because there are only two categories. Okay, one is kingdom plantae and another is kingdom animalia. So the organism that exhibit the characteristic of both the plant and the animal cell, how we can place it, right? So this is the drawback of the two classification system. So because of the drawbacks of the two kingdom system, then the three kingdom system classification was developed. Okay, so it was developed by the Ernst Haeckel. Okay, so what he did, he proposed the introduction of the kingdom Protista. Okay, okay, to and why he proposed the kingdom Protista? To include the unicellular eukaryotes. Okay, so students, previously there are two kingdoms, that is the kingdom plantae and kingdom animalia, and in addition to these two, the Ernest Haeckel, he proposed the third kingdom, that is the kingdom Protista, that will include the unicellular eukaryote. Okay, but this classification also has a drawback. That what is the drawback of this classification? That it's still, there is still no distinguishment between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, so this classification system also did not clearly or adequately distinguish between prokaryotes and the eukaryotes. Okay, so then we move on to the four kingdom classification, because still the classification is not adequate. Okay, so from the two we moved on to the three kingdom system. So basically kingdom plantae, kingdom animalia was there, so another kingdom Protista was added. So now there are three kingdom. Now let's move on to the four kingdom classification. Okay, so this classification system, it was proposed by the Herbert Copeland. Okay, who proposed it? Herbert Copeland. Okay, so these are the three kingdom now existing. So he added one more kingdom, that is the kingdom Monera. Okay, to include prokaryotes. Okay student, so now what do we have? We have kingdom Monera. Okay, the other kingdoms are kingdom plantae. Okay, kingdom animalia and kingdom Protista. Okay, and the fourth one is the kingdom Monera. So now this classification system also has a drawback. So what is the drawback of this classification system? That it still do not account for differences in nutritional mode and other crucial cellular differences within Protista. Okay, so it does not account for mode of nutrition and also other crucial cellular differences. Okay. So I hope it is clear. So now we have 4 kingdoms: kingdom plantae, kingdom animalia, kingdom protista, and the kingdom monera. Okay. Now let's move on to the 5 kingdom system. So this is mostly acceptable classification system, and it was proposed by R.H. Whittaker in 1969. Okay. So he included a separate kingdom, that is the kingdom fungi. Okay. So a new kingdom, kingdom fungi, was included. Okay. Then the main criteria for the classification in the 5 kingdom. Okay. So what are the main criteria? The main criteria include cell types, cell wall, nuclear membrane, body organization, and the mode of nutrition. Okay. So now in this 5 kingdom classification, the individuals, they are classified based on these criteria, that is the cell type, cell wall, nuclear membrane, body organization, and mode of the nutrition. Okay. So now we have 5 kingdom. Okay. So let's just write what are the 5 kingdom. The first we know that is kingdom plantae. The second is kingdom Animalia. Okay, these 2 kingdoms, they were suggested by Linnaeus. Okay. The third kingdom is kingdom Protista. This Protista kingdom includes the unicellular eukaryote and was suggested by the Ernest Haeckel. Okay. The fourth kingdom was kingdom Monera, which was suggested by the Herbert Copeland. Okay. And it includes prokaryote. And the fifth is suggested by the R.H. Whittaker, that is the kingdom fungi. Okay. So these are the 5 kingdoms. Okay. So now what is the advantage of the 5 kingdom classification? So we will write first the advantages. So in the 5 classification system, separate prokaryotes from the eukaryotes. Okay. So the prokaryotes got separated from eukaryotes. Okay. Because the 3 kingdom system and the 4 kingdom system were lacking this. Okay. So now the prokaryotes, they get separated from the eukaryotes. The second advantage of this classification is that it placed fungi in a separate kingdom. Okay. Because it has unique characteristic. So separate fungi. Okay. And the third advantages associated with the 5 kingdom system is that it reflected evolutionary relationship more accurately. Okay. So accurate evolutionary relationship. Okay. However, this 5 kingdom system, it still holds some drawbacks. Okay. The first drawback is that viruses, viroids and lichens, they were not given any place in this classification. Okay. The viruses, viroids and lichens were not given any place in the classification, kingdom classification. Okay. And the second major drawback of this five kingdom classification is that the kingdom Protista, this one, okay, it's the kingdom Protista still possess very diverse organisms. Okay. Okay, so this is all about the classification system. Okay, thank you for watching the video.